presentation, I thought I kind of shortened pieces of it, but it has some really interesting statistics about just top sales professionals across different industries, mostly B2C, which is what we do, but it's interesting how much is similar. And then I learned a couple new things also. So there's 6 trending sales tips to help you make the most of your daily activity. So first here, let me pull this up, is research shows, this was interesting, and there's a graph here. So for you visual number people, right? 81, almost 82% of top performing salespeople spend 4 hours or more per day on prospecting or sales related activities. So that means you could be texting, email, phone calls, follow up, but sales related specific activities. So there's a neat graph here. If you kind of look at the color code on the bottom, and we can send this out as well, but it shows the dark blue are people that are spending over 6 hours a day on those activities. But green is kind of that 4-hour mark. So you look at the top performers here is the top line. Very few, so less than 8% of top performers spend less than an hour. Even less than that spend 1 hour. You can kind of see it goes up from there. We talk about a minimum of 2 hours, but 4 hours seems to be kind of that key. Now, when you're starting out, your first 3 to 6 months, probably 6 hours is more realistic. But once you really get into a rhythm and have that momentum, and if you think about it, 4 hours isn't, if you break it up, if you have 2 hours in the morning, get any busy work done, 2 hours again in the late afternoon, early evening. But then compared to kind of other, maybe not top performers. So that I thought was a really interesting statistic. That's something we talk about all the time, and it, regardless of what industry or what you're selling, it was true of all top performers. So that was kind of a neat little graph there. Next, I just want to show you, this is talking about actively working on your call lists, is what they call them. So prioritize, and we haven't talked about this for a long time, but you know, we all have what we consider our cold list, our warm or our hot list, and even then maybe what we'd consider our lost leads, so people that we had met with and weren't interested. But work on prioritizing those and grouping them, because you know, when we talk about time blocking with prospecting, it's good if we're kind of saying, okay, I'm kind of gearing up, I'm mentally getting ready to focus on all of my cold lists. Anyone that I haven't talked to in over 6 months, I'm going to do that and block those together, because your energy will be similar. You're going to have the same kind of approach and script versus, okay, now I'm going to do my aftercare, or now I'm going to do my warm leads. And it says, don't underestimate the power of a phone call. You know, we talk a lot about other technologies, but it says, research shows that 69% of all buyers have accepted a call from a new salesperson, from new salespeople in the last 12 months. That was higher, and there's links to all this research if you're interested, but that was higher than I had expected. But people who are in an active buying age, 69, almost 70% of them have accepted a call from a new salesperson. So, you know, we talk about, oh, there's spam and so many calls, but people are still taking calls from salespeople. So don't think that cold calling isn't working, call mail call isn't working. People are still actively answering the phone and taking those calls. Next, this was probably what I enjoyed the most about this. I've never seen this broken down this way, but it says, asking between 11 and 14 questions during your prospecting call will translate to 74% greater success. So it actually kind of breaks it down. People who are asking less questions than that, if you ask too many more questions, we've talked about this too, you get too far off track and it starts to feel like an interrogation. But that hot spot is kind of 11 to 14 questions. So I would love to, if some of you wanted to even do this as an exercise, obviously, how are you today? How did everything go with the service? If it's an aftercare call, but start kind of keeping track of that. And then those follow-up questions. So how did everything go with the service? You know, tell me a little bit about your mom, whatever it is. If it's a recycled lead, can you share with me where you last left off? Wonderful. Did you meet here at the funeral home or at your home? But ask those questions. 11 to 14 seems to be the hot spot to see a 74% greater success rate. So that was pretty interesting. So next slide is, I've never heard this before. Wes probably has, he does more of this research than me, but I thought this was really cool. So 80% of buyers say they prefer to be contacted via email, which we're seeing more of that, right? Now, it doesn't mean they won't answer the phone, but if they had a preference, it's email. But there's one thing that's dying out, and that's mass or bulk emails. So if you can tell it's spam, if you can tell it's a company generated email, people just are not reading those. But there's a 26% higher open rate if it's personalized. So if they can tell that it's a personal email from you, they are 26% more likely to open and read that email. I know a lot of you spend time customizing. You might have a template, but then you can plug in a few personal points about your conversations you've had with the families. So I thought that was pretty interesting versus something that looks just kind of like a mass email that you might send out to multiple people. We've heard this one before. This one is nothing new. Imagine this: across every industry, referrals, referrals, referrals. So this says nothing is better than a happy customer, which I know we all have lots of those, right, Kathy? Because everyone loves you. Everyone loves us. Because happy customers spread the word. But a recent study showed that 41% of salespeople never ask. We've heard different numbers on this, but it's usually in that 40 to 60% range. So I know that's none of us here, right? We are all in the habit of asking. It took me some time to get in the habit of, so if you're not, don't be hard on yourself. But we've had separate presentations about this, but even if it's not the right way to ask, just ask. It doesn't have to be perfect, just get in the habit. But the good news is 91% of buyers are influenced by word of mouth in making their buying decision. And this was interesting, and we have seen this as well. The referral-based closing rate is between 50 and 70%. So as a company, we're at about 48% closing. If you're now going to start meeting with those referrals you're getting from the families, your closing rate will go up significantly. So probably not a surprise, but good to kind of be reminded about that piece of it. And then finally, just follow up is key. This was another interesting statistic. So the fruits of your labor generally don't show up on the first contact. We all know that, right? Moving a lead from lukewarm to hot requires work. This means sending follow-up emails, making multiple phone calls, forwarding additional information, et cetera, et cetera. It might just be a checking in or a formal thank you note. We've talked about that. If you haven't, this is what I thought was interesting. If you have not heard back on your email in 24 hours, it is vital to follow up again. Research shows you have a 21% chance of getting a reply on your second email if the first one goes unanswered. So if you send an email to someone and don't hear back, same with texting, don't assume that that means that they aren't interested. Just send another follow-up email, just checking in, wanted to make sure you got my previous email. It will increase your odds by 21%. So again, this part, I love the numbers behind it, but nothing new in theory. Follow up, follow up, follow up. Don't give up after the first, second, third, or even fourth attempt. Stay in touch with the families. So short kind of presentation. We'll send this out with the numbers, but any thoughts or questions from anyone on this piece of it? Hi, Amparo, by the way, and Michael. Good to see you.
Hi.
Hello. Sorry we're late.
Oh, that's okay. Glad to have you. Is any of this surprising to anyone or kind of reinforcing anything we've heard?
Just one thought on emails and texts both, Aaron. I think that this is a really interesting point because we prioritize, right, our emails and our text messages, and I'm sure that we've all probably experienced this before, but we do a lot of texting both from a personal and a professional standpoint, and I know that, you know, I've never counted my text messages going in and out in a particular day, but you know, sometimes you've got, you know, 30 or 40 conversations going at the same time throughout the day, and you kind of prioritize and you reply back to those that you need to get back to immediately, and then others kind of just get like down on that list, right? So, you know, if you don't reply right away, so it's not that you're not important to people, you're just not necessarily an urgent reply. So that text then goes 30 or 40 texts down, and we don't go back, you know, and scroll and figure out who we didn't actually get back to. So I think that, and that's the same with our emails as well. They get pushed down on the list so fast with all the stuff we have coming in that we just have to keep staying in front of people. There's been many times where I've, you know, had obviously apologized, sorry I didn't get back to you, and they've had to text me a second time or maybe even a third time, right? But it was important to me. It just wasn't really a priority at the moment. And so things get bumped down. But when they reach out again, in a polite way, you know, hey, I never heard back from you yesterday, just following up, just checking in. That's a nice reminder. And I think a lot of people are more like me, where I'm almost grateful that somebody has made a second or third attempt, because that's a reminder for me that my brain moves so quickly from one thing to the next thing that sometimes even a conversation happen unless somebody says, hey, you know, you're supposed to get back to me on this or whatever. And I would be willing to bet that more people are like me than not like me, in that we're multitasking and we're moving through things so fast that for me, I actually really appreciate, and I'll thank people. Thank you for the reminder. You know, here's the information or whatever, but I'm grateful that people continue to follow up. And I think that that's what sometimes we think we're being a nuisance or being annoying. But really, I believe that most people are very thankful when it's something that's important. And remember, if you don't believe this is important, then check your value system. This is very important, but for some people, it's not urgent, but it is always important. And they'll be grateful that you continuously follow up with them, that you're reaching out to them, that you're checking in. And you'll even have people comment, thanks for continuing to follow up. And I've just been really busy. Thanks for getting back with me. And those are the experiences that I've found in a lot of cases, is that we're not annoying people. We're just simply staying in front of them. And most people are grateful for that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that's the overarching message, is that we aren't bothering people, just people are busy, and it takes multiple attempts and multiple contacts. How many of you, I think someone shared last week or the week before about someone that said, I'm sorry I haven't replied. We're still not ready to get together, but please don't give up on us. I know we need to do this. I mean, I think it might have been Diana. She's traveling today, but has anyone else heard a version of that as you've been prospecting?
Sure, it happens all the time.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Guy, because I think sometimes it's nice just to get that confirmation that they heard your message. And when you're texting and emailing, you know they're seeing it. They just might not be in a place like Wes said, either from a time constraint or maybe emotionally they're not ready to discuss this yet, but they know that you're there. If they're still receiving the messages, when they finally are ready, they know who to follow back up with. So don't give up. But some interesting statistics for all you number people out there. We'll send this out. So, okay, let me pause sharing this real quick. So, okay, so we're gonna do some kind of an exciting activity with role playing. I asked Wes to run through it with me, unless there's someone else that would like to be the person I call. I would like to, as much as possible, recreate what a normal prospecting phone call, normal objections, or just conversation points, maybe not even an objection, and sort of the energy behind and the words behind responding to some of those. So I'll have Wes go through the first one with me, and then if anyone else wants to be the person I call, or if anyone else even wants to be the caller, you will get kudos from us. So we're going to start with, and I have it in front of me, the general recycled lead script. And I'm actually going to show it on my screen as well. Let me pull this up. 1 minute. Okay, so I'm going to pull it up here so everyone can see it. So if you saw my pre-need tip of the day, I'm sure everyone read that multiple times, right? It's surprising how often I'll go and visit, you know, here in Salt Lake and different funeral homes in California and all over the place. Michael, Travis, West can say this too. Our top salespeople usually will have a version of or the exact script printed and put at their desk. They've been in this business 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. It's not because they don't know it, but it's because sometimes we need a reminder of that roadmap to kind of get back on point. We are able to and could talk about anything under the sun. I'm guilty of that, right? But sometimes we need to kind of get back to center. So I have it here on the screen. Everyone can see that. I'm going to just use it from the book, and I'm going to call West. So good afternoon. Is this West?
Yes, this is West.
Hey, West. This is Erin calling from Larkin Mortuary. How are you today?
Good, I think. Why are you calling me?
Good, good. No, everything's good. I'm sure you're busy, West, so actually I'll be brief. I just have a note here, the reason for my call, that at some point in the past, you were talking with one of our representatives here at Larkin. I've been given the responsibility of making sure that everyone we've talked to has been followed up with. Would you mind just sharing with me where your last conversation left off?
I don't remember ever talking to anybody over there, to be totally honest.
Yeah, you may have attended an event or a service, and to be totally honest, that's why I'm making these calls, is just to make sure nothing slips through the cracks. Let me just ask a couple other questions, just so that our records are as complete as possible. Our notes indicate that you haven't yet done any pre-planning for yourself. Is that correct?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, wonderful. We just want to make sure that everyone is aware of the many valuable services that we provide to the community. One of those is our free personal wishes organizer. And gosh, I see somehow you have not received one of those yet. Is that correct?
I don't remember getting anything unless it's something my wife got, didn't tell me about or something. Wouldn't be the first time.
Okay, well, even if she, yeah, no problem. And what was your wife's name again, just so I have a note here?
Janae.
Okay, I'll mark that down. Even if she did receive that, then we have some updated information to make sure to get to you. Part of our commitment to continued care is to make sure that everyone does have a copy. It allows you to start to document your own personal wishes for both you and Janae. I see you just live here in Harriman. I'm actually going to be out your way this week. Are mornings or afternoons usually best for you?
I work during the day. It's really, I don't know. I probably need to talk to my wife before I scheduled anything because we're really busy right now.
Yeah, no problem. So do you both work during the day, or is it kind of a 9 to 5 shift?
For the most part, yeah, she stays at home, but just about every night I've got something going on. It's gonna.
Okay, well, yeah. So do you still have kids at home? And it sounds like you got a lot going on.
Yeah.
Good for you. And what kind of work do you do?
I work in sales just like you.
Oh, well, good for you. You know how crazy busy everyone is. Why don't I do this? I'm going to just pencil you in for tomorrow, which is Thursday, about 5:30. I'm just going to stop by, introduce myself, visit. You can chat with Janae. I'll text you just tomorrow. That way you can chat with her tonight and make sure. I'll text you as a reminder. And then if you find out there's a different day or time that works better, you can just text me back and we'll do that. And then I have you at 123 Happy Street. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I'm not going to be home tomorrow night.
Oh, okay, no problem. Hopefully you're doing something fun. Let me look at next week. I usually only work 2 evenings a week. That's Monday and Thursdays. Are Thursdays usually booked for you, or is that just something tomorrow?
It's just something for tomorrow. I'm usually probably open on Thursdays, but I'm going to need to talk to my wife first, before I say.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I'll have you chat with her. I do find, just so that I've got it in my calendar on my end, and then that way I don't schedule anything, I'm going to pencil you in for next Thursday. That gives you a week to talk with Janae. And then how about I'll text you on Monday just to confirm. And if Thursday night doesn't work, then we'll find another time. Sound good?
All right, that'll work.
Okay, I'll look forward to meeting you guys hopefully next Thursday. I'll confirm that with you on Monday. And this is my direct cell. If you have any other questions, just feel free to call or text me back.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Wes. Okay, who uses this script? Does anyone? Okay, the script made me a lot of money when I was selling because it was my most favorite script. It was like the catch-all. You don't know what lead it's from. You don't know what or where it's going. It's aftercare, recycled, file review. I love this, and it was very open-ended. So we've taught. That was a good. First of all, any questions before I over-explain unnecessarily? Questions from anyone? Thoughts? Okay, I was big on tentative appointments. People always, and I'll argue this to the death. I'd rather have a really solid appointment and I want to make sure they're going to be there. No, you just want the momentum of agreeing to an appointment. Now, am I likely going to meet with Wes and Janae next Thursday night? Probably not. But now when I call him back, I'm calling back to confirm an appointment. I'm not starting all from the beginning. Hey, it's me again, trying to call back to schedule a time. I now am calling back because we have tentatively set an appointment. So I would always just say, just so I've got it on my calendar, I'm going to pencil you in. I'll call you back or text you Monday to confirm. So now he knows if he doesn't reply, I'm showing up on Thursday, right? So at least now we have to talk again before next Thursday. And if that doesn't work, now he has to talk to his wife about a different time that does work. Hopefully I've swayed all of you now that don't like tentative appointments, but it worked for me. It got me the momentum I needed. It gave me a reason to call back from a place of strength instead of starting from the beginning. Any thoughts or comments about that?
So quick thought on tentative appointments. I worked with a counselor at the beginning of my career who made a living making like appointment windows. So I don't know if you want to try this approach or not, but it worked really well. Actually for him and a couple other people who caught onto it, but instead of saying, hey, I'm going to set you for Tuesday at 5:30, he would say, you know what, I'm going to be in your area on Tuesday between 4 and 5:30. Or 5:30 or 6. I think it was like a 2-hour window usually he would give them and say, I'm just going to pop by and introduce myself and give you the book, and we can sit down and chat if you have time. And if not, we can schedule another time. But I just want you to know I'll be over there and I'll just ring the bell or shoot you a text when I'm in front of your house. So an appointment window would work. And sometimes, they'd be home and sometimes they wouldn't. But he actually had a really, he was an old school, so he worked with a map, like an actual atlas in his car. And so he would just kind of map his appointments that way based on literally being in the area and trying to just, hit all these different tentative appointment windows. So I think that could be an approach as well that could work for some people.
Yeah, and I love that. The reason that works is because our whole goal, we're calling from a funeral home. So they're literally like envisioning the Grim Reaper. They do not want to meet with you. They don't even like talking to you. But now when you show up, I mean, who isn't going to fall in love with Kathy or Jane or even Lou, right? Those are people I can see right now. When you're now in front of them face to face, their guard comes down. So it is still worth it, even if all you're doing is, hi, I'm Kathy with Ashley Valley, just wanted to introduce myself. Now, the likelihood of them scheduling a pretty solid appointment goes through the roof. Yes, is there one step in between? Sure, but it's worth it. Otherwise, you could be calling the guy for another 6 months before he agrees to a quote unquote solid appointment. So I love that, Michael. That's great advice.
Aaron, I was going to make a small little comment too. It's pretty obvious, but you didn't give up on the very first objection. How many times do we just give up on that very first one? Like, okay, we'll call you back in a few weeks. So you kept the conversation rolling by asking a couple of other questions. Oh, you're in cells, or you have kids, this and that. Just something quickly, just sidestep that first objection, then keep going.
Yeah, that's a good point, Travis. I think we have, if we're talking about habits, we talked about that with referrals, it just has to be a habit that you expect that there's going to be pushback. We've talked about, I could be walking into Nordstrom and I need a blue dress. And the sales lady says, hi, can I help you with anything? No, I'm just looking. But no, I need a blue dress, right? If she comes up again and says, looks like, yeah, well, actually, I need a blue dress. But it's just knee-jerk response. That's what people are used to saying. It's not a good time. I'm busy. Right? I need to talk to my wife. No problem. It was never, hopefully you felt it wasn't aggressive. It wasn't pushy. I was trying to accommodate their schedule. Now, if he had gone one more time, I probably then would have said, okay, then I'm going to schedule a time to call you back. But he didn't sound like he wasn't interested, but we worked around the issue that he needed to talk to his wife, right? And now when I call him back, I have a reason to call back. So thanks, Travis, for that. Any other questions or thoughts about this? Hopefully you're all using a version of this script for most everything other than aftercare. I was fortunate enough last week in Madison to I was able to shadow Nikki, Dave, and Melissa, who are all relatively new. And they did an excellent job and they sounded very natural. And it was interesting on a couple of the calls, and they were live prospecting calls that we were listening to, it was absolutely spot on. But sometimes it's just a matter of, would you like a personal wishes organizer? And we go, oh, instead of great, when can I bring that by? Or, I see that you don't have a personal wishes organizer, and then saying, is that something you'd be interested in? Okay, that's why the scripts are important. It gets us away from some of those habits. So instead of, I see you don't have a personal wishes organizer, I'm going to be in your area. Do you prefer just immediately going into that assumptive language? Something so small can make a world of difference on those calls. So, okay, any other thoughts on this? Anyone find something different, or you can disagree too, by the way. I was in debate in high school, so I love a good back and forth if anyone has found anything different. Okay, then we're gonna go, I'm gonna move along here to, I'm actually gonna go to the recycled aftercare. Everyone has in their CRM and their database people who are past aftercare. I will argue that almost all of our leads are someone's aftercare. They probably wouldn't be in the system if they hadn't thought about this from someone's service. So most people are a version of this, but these are families that you have served at your funeral home. And we are now calling them, generally this is after 4 to 6 months from the service. So does anyone else want to be someone I call, or should we have it be West again?
Come on. Somebody jump in if you want. Give her some objections. Let's stump her. Let's see how good.
All right, Michael. All right, good.
Michael.
All right. So good afternoon. This is Erin calling with Evans Brown Mortuary. Am I speaking with Michael?
Yes, this is Michael.
Hi, Michael. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you're busy. I can hear that in your voice, so I will keep this call brief. We've had the honor here at Evans Brown of serving your family in the past, and it's just my job to make sure that you've received the best service possible. Michael, would you just mind sharing with me what your experience has been here at Evans Brown?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, you know, when my dad died last year, we called Evans Brown, and they kind of did everything for us, and you know, handled all the burial and taking care of everything with the National Cemetery. So yeah, we had a really nice lady help us out. Carrie, I think her name was. Maybe she was really sweet and took really good care of me and my wife. So yeah, that's kind of where it was. You guys took care of my dad.
Well, thank you for sharing that with me. I'll pass that on to Carrie. So was your dad a veteran? It sounds
yes,
like?
he was. Yeah, he served his whole life in the armed forces. So.
Oh, how was the service then with the honors, and how did that go?
Yeah, it was really nice. I'd never seen anything like that before. I'd heard about it, but never been to one myself. So yeah, I think he would have been really pleased.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it was very special. And again, I appreciate you sharing that with me. I know Carrie takes a lot of pride in her work, so I'll pass that along from you and your wife. So Michael, how has Evans Brown done in serving you and your family's needs? Is there any other questions or anything else we can do at this time?
You know, no, we got everything we needed. It took a little while to get that jewelry that we ordered, but you know, other than that, I mean, Carrie kept us posted on kind of when it was coming and all that. But yeah, as soon as it arrived, we just went in and picked it up. So I think we have everything. So yeah, thanks for calling.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that with me. Just one more thing. I want to make sure, and this is part of my job, is that everyone is aware of the many valuable services that Evans Brown provides to the community. One of those services, Michael, is our free personal wishes organizer. And gosh, I don't know how this happened, but looking at your file, it looks like you haven't received one yet. Is that correct?
No, Carrie never gave me one of those. I don't know what that is. What is it again?
Oh, yeah, no, great question. So it's a free 18-page planning guide that carefully guides you through the decision-making process through such a difficult time. People that have experienced a loss start just thinking of documenting their own wishes, and those who have used it have told us it's one of the most helpful and valuable books they could have received. So it's just part of our commitment to the community to make sure that you receive one. Are you still here in Hemet, Michael?
Yeah, you know what though? I'm just gonna be cremated, and I'm not a veteran, so I don't need any of that, I don't think.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm happy to hear you've talked about it. Have you and your wife kind of started that discussion?
Yeah, she's gonna be cremated too. I think that's all we need.
Great. So actually, you know what's so neat about this book is it's actually perfect for families who will be cremated, because even with cremation, there's about 4 or 5 dozen questions that the funeral director is going to ask either your spouse or your family when the time comes. Most people are not aware of that ahead of time, so just allows you to document it. Again, it doesn't cost anything, and that way you have everything written down. I actually am going to be in Hemet, and it, you know, truth be told, it gives me an excuse to get out of the funeral home. I'd love to just come meet with you in person, make sure you have your own copy. Do you work during the day?
Oh, you know what? We're actually not meeting in person right now. Just my wife is immunocompromised, and with the COVID stuff, we're not doing that. So thank you, though.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. How is her health with everything? This must be a really scary time.
Yeah, she's fine, but you know, we're just not taking any risks at this point. So
Yeah, I totally understand that. You know what is really neat? This has been a learning year for all of us, right? But we now have the opportunity, and if I'm honest, I could practice myself a little bit. I would love to schedule a time to just do a little virtual meeting. It sounds like you're pretty tech savvy and probably do a lot of things with work. Do you work from home?
yes, right now I am working from home for the foreseeable future. Yeah, so I do have a computer, and I know how to use it pretty well.
Oh, great. Well, then I might need you to help me guide through it, but I've got a really neat tool that I would love to share with you, and it shows everything online, and then I'll give you a fillable PDF to have. And again, there's no cost, and it'll just take about 20 minutes or so. Our kind of late afternoons or early evenings usually best for your schedule?
Yeah, you know, I work during the day, so probably in the late afternoon. How long does this take, though?
Usually just about 20 minutes, depending on how many questions you have, and then we can always schedule a follow-up visit if needed. What was your wife's name again?
Sarah.
Okay, great. Great. So let's see.
I almost said Jason. Sorry.
Jason, she sounds nice.
Yeah.
So I'm busy tomorrow night. I've got appointments, but I could do Friday at 5:30 or Monday at 6:30. Which is best for you and Sarah?
Yeah, you know what? Probably Friday would be, no, you know what? Friday? No, I'm going to blow off some steam Friday. Probably Monday would be better. Let's do that.
Yeah, good for you. Monday, that'll give you time to recover from the steam you're going to blow off Friday, right?
Right.
Okay, great. So I've got you down for Monday at 6:30. I'm going to email you your link. Give me your email, blah, blah, blah. Make sure you get their email. And then I'll send you a text reminder on Monday. And this is my cell phone. If you have any questions between now and then, feel free to call. And I really appreciate you taking the time. I know how busy you are. I look forward to visiting with you on Monday.
Okay. Thanks, Erin.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's a pretty standard call, right? Especially now with the virtual things. Keep it lighthearted, even the few little dumb, corny jokes. That's what I would say to people. You want to make yourself human, make yourself real. With the virtual stuff, what a great opportunity to say, well, I'd love to practice with this anyways if you're not meeting in person. Is anyone using this script, or any thoughts or questions on this one?
It's good.
Well, thanks, Jane. Hi, Jane, by the way. I didn't get to say hi to
No,
you
I
earlier.
think it's a good script. I don't follow it exactly, but I think a lot of what you said, I incorporate into when I'm trying to talk to families to schedule. Yeah.
Yes, thank you for saying that. It does not have to be verbatim, and nor do we expect it to. When your first couple months, you want to follow it as closely as possible so that you can kind of get your own, you know, flair to it. But you want to be careful not to go too far off script either. You know, when I asked West earlier what he does for sales, I don't then want to get into all the details about his job. We'll save that for once we're meeting in person. So you want to ask enough questions that they know that you care, but we have to keep it kind of back to that slide, the 11 to 14 questions, right? So just trying to stay on script as much as possible. And then back to Travis's point, don't take, you could tell Michael was wanting to, yeah, okay, well, thanks for calling. I'm good. Great, great. Just one more thing. Don't be so quick to just say, okay, he's too busy. I don't want to push. Be kind. You know, I think your tone is probably half of it, even more than the words. If you can get a lot away with a lot by having the right tone. Acknowledge that they're busy, acknowledge that you'll be quick, but kind of get to the next point and let them know what's in it for them. So I briefly explained the benefit of the personal wishes organizer, enough that it provided some value without over explaining and talking about insurance and payments. Any other thoughts on this one for anyone?
I just want to add, I think you did a really good job, you know, and I'm guilty of this too, and I think a lot of us are, when we make calls, and if somebody shares something like, well, hey, my wife is immunocompromised, I think you did a great job of just saying, hey, how's her health? And letting me say, yeah, she's fine, we're just not doing that, instead of saying, oh my God, what's wrong with her? What happened? And trying to create emotion over the phone. I think that's a bad idea, and a lot of us, fall into that trap sometimes of trying to build emotion and behind what we're doing when really the goal of our prospecting and being on the phone is just to set an appointment. So, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, but I think a good thing that we should do is just try to save the emotion for the appointment, and the goal of setting the appointment, making that your first priority. So I think it's good that you didn't fall into that trap, because I totally said it for you.
Yeah, he knew.
Well, and I agree with that completely. The other side of that is to not acknowledge what he said at all. And I think that we're guilty of that too, where he talked about his wife, that they couldn't meet in person. You could have easily just bypassed that, right, and not acknowledged or validated that concern. So that's the balance in it all, is that you don't want to be so salesy that it's like, well, I don't really give a crap about your wife, let's set an appointment. But you could take it too far too, right? So it's finding that delicate balance in that you acknowledge and validate, by asking him one quick follow-up question. So how's your health? As opposed to not even asking anything at all. So that's really, I think, where the skill set comes into. And again, recording some calls and playing them back and letting someone listen to them, you're going to kind of key into some of these things that if you just completely bypassed it would have been insensitive. If you would have gone into it too deep, you would have gotten too emotional on the phone. So that was just a really good balance of validating, acknowledging, and moving on, without getting into a big, long conversation, but also not completely bypassing that's a concern of theirs. So.
Right. Yeah. My natural inclination, and I have had to struggle with this and learn the hard way when I started, was, oh my goodness, yes, my mother's immunocompromised. Tell me, what does she have? How is she? How long has she had it? Save that for the appointment, because it is a fine line. We have to let them know that we care, but too much emotion on the phone either comes off as fake, and now you're doing it for the sake of getting an appointment, or now they really log on, how you have a 35-minute conversation with a lady about her arthritis and her diabetes and her surgeries, and now you're so far off track that you don't even know how to get it back to even setting an appointment. So anything like that they share, if they say I work during the day, just briefly, what do you do for work? Like, oh, okay, sounds like you're busy. Do you have kids? Ask a few questions, but we don't want to go too far down that road. Women tend to go too far, men tend to ignore it. Obviously a generalization, but that's what I have seen. So just be aware of that, kind of keeping it on point. So.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback on that, that's why it's another great reason to have a script in front of you at all times. Even seasoned counselors, keep the script in front of you, because if you do fall into the trap and you get too emotional, you can always look in front of you and see the next thing. So bring it back to the conversation that you're supposed to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not about that you don't know the script, you don't know what you're saying. It's just, as we now have these really nice flowing conversations, it's okay. So the next step is just get right back to the point. So have 2 or 3 of the most common scripts ready to go, and then the most common objection handlers. So, okay, what other script do you guys use the most, or you feel like maybe you need help with, or you just like the most? Just anyone.
Well, I use those call scripts that you just used most often. There are not a lot of other scripts that are used as frequently as those are, I think.
Thanks, Guy. Yeah, those are probably the most. There's a file review and unfunded script. I don't know if anyone wants to hear that, but if I think it's important, let's first kind of talk about what are the most common objections that you're hearing on the phone. So if someone just throw out maybe one that pops into your brain.
Have to talk to my wife.
Okay, great. Shane, what were you going to say?
You have to talk to a financial advisor.
Okay, let's talk about the first one first from Guy. So Guy, would you feel comfortable running through that with me? I don't want to put you on the spot.
We can. I actually have a phone call appointment here in just a very few minutes.
Well, then let me just say this about the wife thing. And you heard this with West. I actually liked that because it gave me the opportunity to set a tentative appointment. And the reason I would justify it is because I needed to get my schedule in order for the next few days. I'm busy, and you know what, just so I make sure I have time available, I'm going to pencil you in. It sounds like generally best. I'm going to pencil it in, maybe have it two to 3 days out, and then I'll call you back. That'll give you time to talk to her. If that doesn't work, we'll find another time. If they reply still no to that at least 2 more times, then I would schedule the time for the follow-up. Okay, it sounds like maybe it'll be too hard to schedule today. Bob, I'm going to call you tomorrow between 12 and 2. That'll give you time to talk to Mary, and then we'll find a time that works from there. So your last effort is to schedule the follow-up call back. Does that help?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay. The financial advisor one is easier on the phone. Are we talking about on the phone, James?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you mind me asking what are you saying to respond to that now?
No, a lot of times what I'll say, I think that's a good decision, and financial advisors provide good information to you, but I still think it's a good idea to take a look at this now. You can keep your money, without going into a lot of detail, you can keep your money there and let it try to gain a little bit of interest, or you can put it here where you're going to get, a significant advantage by planning early and things like that.
Okay. Thank you, Jane, and thanks for being willing to share. I always respect people who just throw it out there. Couple things. Keep a rubber band. Everyone, I had to do this mentally or actually on your wrist. And every time you say but in a prospecting call, snap the rubber band because they will automatically get defensive. So everything you said, I think that's great that you want to talk to your financial advisor, but now they're disagreeing with me. But the good news on this one, erase all of that. All you need to say, Bob, we're getting way ahead of ourselves. I just want to bring out the book, review it with you. I'll give you your options. And then afterwards, if you want to go take that and talk to your advisor, great. I just want to share with you the book and help you get some of your wishes documented. At the very least, your kids will know what your wishes are. Is Tuesday or Thursday best?
Okay, so this person I've already done that with. I've already been to the house. I'm going to call her back, but I've been to the house. We've gone over the personal wishes organizer a little bit. I shared some pricing with her. She's very interested in doing it for her and her husband. We talked about getting together for a second meeting and talking about particulars. And then she sent me an email and saying, by the way, I'm meeting with my financial advisor at the end of the month, so I'm going to put it off.
Okay, so that's more in response to the presentation.
Right.
Okay, let me put that aside for a second. I'm going to respond to that. What other objections on the phone are you guys hearing? Amparo probably doesn't hear any because I think everyone just tells her yes. So I don't expect her to have any.
I think
Right,
what I'm
Amparo?
hearing a lot from a lot of my counselors, not necessarily Amparo, but just, people are scared to meet because of COVID and they're scared about, losing their jobs in the future. That's kind of what we're hearing a lot out here.
Great.
In general, I think there's just uncertainty in general that I think needs to be addressed.
So we have, so when I said with West and Michael, I'm sure you're busy, so I'll be brief. Do you know why we say that? Does anyone know the reason for saying that?
To get rid of the very first objection that you're going to get from people.
Yes, great job, Amparo. We need to start doing the same thing with COVID? Do we have to say pandemic or COVID specifically? No, but if you are hearing that objection a lot in your area, then you need to start adding a line to your script that says, the reason I'm calling is we've had an overwhelming number of families now wanting to document their own wishes. With everything in the news and the uncertainty in the world right now, families are finding so much comfort in at least having their wishes written down. Get ahead of, now they're not going to say, well, with everything in the news, I don't want to meet, right? Get ahead of it. If we plant a little seed about the importance of it, then if they say, well, I'm just nervous about, I might lose my job. Mary, We're getting ahead of ourselves. This is about you having the peace of mind of knowing that at least your wishes are written down. At least your children will know what you want. At least, I mean, just use that. At the very least, you'll have the comfort, use that word, the comfort and peace of mind of knowing your wishes are documented. It doesn't cost anything. It would give me an opportunity to meet with you either face to face, mask to mask, or online. You tell me what you're most comfortable with. So the key to that objection is not hearing it in the first place and getting ahead of it.
Great.
I think basically you just take away the money part of it when you say that.
Yep.
That's just to give them information, not to
Yes.
sell them anything. At least that's what I do.
Stop selling.
And Parl's going to give our next training on prospecting because that is all of it in a nutshell. It is not about take out the money. It is not about, the good news is if you take out the money, there is almost no objection. And now we talk about I'm too busy, we'll deal with all that. But if it's anything related to the money, I'm nervous about money, financial advisor, this is not about the money. At the very least, let's get your wishes documented. Good job, Emparo. You have a good trainer out there.
Stop.
Okay, any other questions or objections that you guys are hearing that you're getting stuck with?
Well, honestly, I like to add that, I mean, yesterday when I was with AA training in Riverside, we did have a walk-in from a lady who came in and really said, you know, when I sat down with her to meet and talk about pre-planning, I said, so what caused you to start thinking about these matters now? That's during my opening question. And it was, well, the news, you know, in the news, we're hearing about all these deaths. And, you know, I've just been thinking about it because my husband is 10 years younger than me. I'm 75, he's 65. And, you know, I don't want to leave him with this and all that. But it was on top of her mind because of the news and because we're hearing about death and COVID and all this stuff. So for everybody who doesn't want to meet because of it, there are people out there who are wanting to meet and get it taken care of because they are thinking about taking care of their family and protecting them from it. And so in the event something happens. So
Yes,
You gotta
it's
find
all understanding that in our mind. Across the country, we are hearing so many stories of small funeral homeowners that don't even have an official pre-need program that can't keep up with the call-in walk-in business. They have never seen anything like it. So it is increasing. I'd say for every one person who's nervous to meet because of it, there's probably 2 or 3 now that are wanting to meet, at least get things written down because of it. So that's a great point, Michael, is just understanding that people still want to get together. Jane, I just want to, and I know people have asked about this before. It's in the training manual, but the financial advisor objection in the home, and this is worth mentioning because a few people have asked this lately, so I'm guessing people are hearing this more. Again, it's back to similar to what Emparo said, but getting away from the money. So hopefully you're asking those 4 emotional questions at the beginning, right? Mary, why did you decide to meet with me today? Well, I've got 2 daughters. Tell me, okay, I know you have a daughter in Tennessee and one that lives here local. You don't want to put all that on her, whatever the reason is. So Mary, I always go to worst case scenario. Mary, let's assume you go to your financial advisor tomorrow and they say, nope, this doesn't make sense financially. We can make you a few extra dollars on your money if you keep it where it is and you invest it, which by the way, that's what they'll always say. They get paid on money under management, right? They're rarely going to tell them to plan. But they say, let's assume that the time comes and you've passed away. Let's just paint 2 pictures here. You invested the money with the financial advisor. Let's say you got another $400 or $500. I mean, let's just, probably that's the most it would be. Let's assume it's that much more than if you would have pre-planned. But now your daughter comes in, the one that lives here locally, the one in Tennessee is in Tennessee. Your daughter is sitting at the funeral director staring at her, ready to ask 125 questions, and nothing is done and nothing is planned. Do you feel like she would have been better off on that day if everything was in place, or do you feel that that extra $400 or $500 will be better for her at that time? I mean, no, you didn't come here today because you thought you could make more money by investing it with pre-planning. You came here today to remove a heavy emotional burden from your kids. That's almost always the reason. We just go to worst case scenario. Financial advisor is going to tell you no. Now let's talk about what that will look like for your kids when the time comes. It's back to that professional courage that Michael talks about, which Jane, I know you have no problem with. You told the guy to open his wallet and see how much cash he had to pay his first payment. But just not being afraid to say, let's really get into this and figure out, okay, well, you know what, Mary, I don't know. You may or may not make more money that way, but that's not why you're here. You're here because you've got 6 kids, you've got your husband, whatever it is. Let's just get this done. It's not, the difference in money is negligible compared to the benefit that this will provide to them when the time comes.
Okay, I'm gonna, yeah,
And you don't, it's in the book, so you can,
Right.
it's in the training manual. But that's a little off topic, but worth mentioning. But again, conceptually, when you understand, the goal is to get it back to the emotion, and that's why we ask those questions. It'll be easy for you to find your own words, to say, oh, okay, this is not about the, I've done that. I've painted myself into a corner about rates and returns and inflation. Don't do that. This is about protecting our kids from the emotional burden.
got it. Okay,
You'll definitely always lose that battle when it comes to this being a financial investment, especially if you're having the conversation with a financial advisor. It's just not one that for the most part, we don't have the knowledge and the acumen that a good financial advisor has anyways. So he's probably, he's going to be able to outsmart you when it comes to, if we get into a financial conversation. This is an emotional investment for you and for your family. And as Aaron said, could you make more? Probably, right? But that's not why you're doing this. That you're doing this to protect your family. In this particular case, it's a good financial decision, but you're protecting your family is more important than protecting your money. And you've got to have that be the focus of that conversation. And it does come up, right? I mean, you're going to have those, it's the same objection of, I've got life insurance to pay for this. I mean, it's in the same wheelhouse. They might have $100,000 whole life insurance policy. It's plenty to cover the funeral plan. If you get into that it being a financial debate, you're going to have a hard time. But if you get in again to talking about, how a pre-planned funeral is different than life insurance, keep your life insurance. This is about protecting your family emotionally at a difficult time, making those difficult decisions easier. And you're acknowledging it, you're validating it, but then you're saying, but this isn't about the money. This is about protecting your family from a difficult time. And you could, from my opinion, you can, in experience, from an emotional standpoint, you can outsmart the financial advisor by really asking, not telling. Aaron, I think, had some good things, but it's about asking questions, not telling them why they should do this instead of that, but helping them paint the picture of, when you pass away and all these decisions aren't made and taken care of, what type of experience is your family going to have at that time? An extra $400 or $500 is not going to make a big difference. There's still
right. No, that's helpful.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay. Anything
All
else
right.
from anyone?
I'm good.
Okay. Thank you all for taking the time. You all saw you'll get 3 extra raffle tickets just for being on the call. So we appreciate you taking time out of your day.
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right.
We hope one of you wins.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey guys.
See you later.